The programme for government includes a commitment to keep reducing student fees. The fees fell in the last 2 year budgets, but thanks to cost of living measures, really, yet this week we learned they're going back up, meaning an extra €1,000 for many students. Here's how some students reacted to the news today.
I had a hard enough time paying for it, before they rose all the prices. So I don't know how young people, 19 to 20, whatever, are going to tackle that issue these days. It's very unfair.
I have two brothers who are going to college again this year, so there'll be three of us, and it means that it's just going to make college a little bit more stressful for everyone, because if you're not under Susie, you've got then this extra, in our case, $3,000 to worry about every year that you're going to have to pay, especially when we got used to it just being the 2,000. It means that we're going back to a status quo that makes college less accessible for everyone.
Michael, Thomas and Gabby are still with me. We'll go to the Minister first. He sees everything up close. Who's winning this row, Michael? Is it Fine Gael? Is it Fianna Fáil? And less facetiously, why is it happening?
Well, I don't think it should be happening, because this is very clear and very straightforward. The programme for government, which I and other independents, for example, signed up to, clearly stated that the objective is to reduce the cost of fees and to make things easier for families to send their students to college. I've spoken all day and over the last number of days to people who, the nightmare of all is 2 or 3 going to college and who are struggling as it is. And when they heard this news, of course, they were extremely upset. I spoke to Minister James Lawless this evening on the phone about this. And I was very clear and very factual about it. And now he tells me, and of course, I take everybody at what they're saying. He's saying to me that what he wants to do is target those type of people who are really in need, that there's a certain pool of money there. And what his vision would be is to give it more to people who would need it more than others, and that there are different levels of... But to be blunt about it, my attitude is every person who wants to go to college, the government clearly outlined what we all signed up for was one thing. And if something else is going to happen, well, that will have to be debated, because people aren't happy with it. And I've spoken to people in all the government parties and the independents, and people are not happy with this suggestion.
And you're not happy
I am
what you're saying?
Not.
And what are you going to do about it?
Because, well,
what can you do about it?
Well, why do you think I was talking to him tonight about it?
Yeah.
Because I was letting him know that I wasn't happy with it, and I want to see exactly what is he proposing to do. Because the one thing that I do know is that if people were struggling as it was, if this will come into play, well, then it's going to be an impossible situation.
Well, if you listen to the Taoiseach and the Taoiseach, who are both...
I know, conflicting.
Who are both abroad. Simon Harris was in Berlin, but I think he's spoken into Cabinet. Micheál Martin is in Japan. And they both seem to say, as far as I could determine, that you'll just have to prepare to pay a larger whack in September. And then when there's the second instalment in the new year, that'll be somehow helped. A promise that we haven't really got in writing. Would that be acceptable to you, that you pay a larger amount in September and a lower amount then with aids brought in the budget in the second half?
The first thing that I'll tell you is that what will be acceptable to me is what will be acceptable to people. And that is that the pool of money that is there will be fairly distributed to them. But the big thing is that you can't have a situation that the rug will be pulled out from underneath people. You heard people there on that item that you had on. And there was one lady, and she's saying there was 3 in her family going to college. And if that was to mean 3,000, did you ever hear of such a thing as the straw that would break the camel's back? We want our people to be educated. And we have to have a situation that money won't deter them or stop them from doing that. It's not right, it's not fair. And who's being hit all the time? It is the person who's working hard, who's doing everything right, and now all of a sudden they're so worried about this. But what I would be hoping is that Minister Lawless, I would be hoping that he will fight for and get the budget that he requires keep us going to where we're supposed to get there, and that is that the situation will get better and not worse.
Thomas Gould, it would seem though that first of all, Michael Healy-Rae isn't going to accept the solution that seemed to be, if you divine what they were saying, that you'll just have to prepare for a big hit in September, and hopefully, if the budget allows it, something in January. Would that be acceptable to Sinn Féin voters that you've communicated with over the last 24 hours?
This is a horrendous decision. And one part of me is glad to hear that Michael is going to oppose this. And we will be opposing it. And I hope Michael and the other independents and backbenchers and Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael will send out a clear message now to Minister Lawless, the Taoiseach and the Tánaiste, that people won't accept this. What we're talking about now, there are people struggling to pay their college fees. And we're talking about giving an extra €1,000 in September. What this will do will be a barrier to education, a barrier for people filling their full potential and driving. No wonder people are leaving the country, or young people are leaving in droves. No wonder when we have a government that is hitting them at every turn. And you must remember, last week we had the government bringing in the bill about the rent pressure zones and how that's going to drive up rent for students. So we have students now, increased rents, 50% increase. That's what this is, a 50% increase. The cost of living of just trying to live as a student now. And I know I'm talking to parents who are just barely surviving. Like, for a lot of families in the middle, they're doing everything to get their kids the education they need. And for this government, what they're planning now,
from what Michael has kindly reported for us tonight is that James Lawless seems to be admitting that the money isn't there, and he's going to try and assist families that would struggle to pay bills who are special cases, and that's what I seem to understand he has said. Is that acceptable?
It's not acceptable.
If the money is not there.
Well, Sinn Féin have a plan to reduce student fees over the lifetime of a government. What we want to do in the cost of living
and don't
package,
forget the government have promised that as well.
Yeah, but the difference, just let me finish.
Not going very well for them now.
What Pierre Starty is proposing is a reduction of €1,500. So instead of going up to 3,000, like Michael and his government are going to do, we'd reduce it by 1,500 to €1,500 to give students a chance, and then over time get rid of it. But I put it here now. Yeah. If you're a parent tonight, Michael have thousands of parents and students in Kerry tonight, right? Is Michael going to give a commitment that he will not support this? Because I'm telling you, I and Sinn Féin will not support this.
Michael, will you accede to Thomas's request?
The commitment that I will give is very straightforward. I signed up to this programme for government. The programme for government is very clear in what it is saying. But you must just remember one thing about what Thomas says. Because Thomas keeps saying things like this. Sinn Féin are looking to charge for nothing and to give everything for everything. And it's very easy for you to say exactly what you just said.
We have a fully costed budget, Michael. I'm not sure if you read it, and we'll have another one this year. You can read that as well.
Yeah, I've read it, and I'd love to know where the money is going to come from.
Well, it's all in there, Michael. If you read it, you would see it.
You must be going to print money yourselves. But there is one thing that's important. 140,000 students have their tuition fees paid by the state annually.
Yeah.
Now, that has to be recognised. So it's not as though that there is... No, but, are you denying that?
So, Michael,
but are you denying
there's students watching here tonight looking for hope.
But I'm just stating fact.
To interrupt this row, Gabby, how has this row come about between Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael primarily?
Yes, so of course we did have...
Although Michael has his position as
we had James Lawless, who's the Further and Higher Education Minister in Fianna Fáil. He basically came out a couple of days ago and he's saying, look, we know this year in the budget there's not going to be any cost of living, once-off cost of living package of measures that we've seen in previous years, which saw the double child benefit, electricity credits galore, and also a cut to student fees. That seems to be a pushback now from Fine Gael, with Simon Harris sending a voice note to party members saying, we are committed to cutting college fees. I will make an important point. Simon Harris was previously the Minister for Further and Higher Education, of course, and I believe it was him in that portfolio that he brought about this cut to student fees. And he talked about, when he was Minister, it's very important that we cut student fees, college fees. They're a huge barrier to education, as Thomas was saying. But it was a temporary cost of living measure.
It wasn't put on a permanent footing.
And he did not put it on a permanent footing. That is why we are in this situation now where James Lawless is looking at the pot of money. He's looking at Trump tariffs. Pascal Donoghue saying, listen, lads, there's not a lot of money. Tighten the owl purse strings. And he's saying, I might have to actually up the college fees. Another important point to make, the Susie grant is there available from the state already, and that helps those most disadvantaged students.
Yeah.
Of course, the criteria for that is very tight. So if you're in it, great. And if you're not, that means that you're facing thousands of extra euros year.
Michael, I mean,
Yes.
quickly,
No, but-
did
and
James
that-
Lawless just
yes.
admit that there isn't the money there because we're not getting a cost of living package?
Isn't it obvious? That's what he said over the weekend. But Gabby's point about the Susie grant is so correct, because I said it myself a minute ago. It's the workers, the people who have to pay, who are not available.
If you're outside of the means criteria, though, you're stuck.
Exactly. If you can't avail of the Susie grants, and if you have to face this, that is why it has to be resisted.
Would you be in favour, Michael, of widening the means criteria so more
Increasing
parents and more students can be eligible for the grant?
Yes.
But sure, isn't that what I signed up to in the programme for government? But
Well,
nobody was
not
expecting.
exactly that.
But nobody was expecting this Scud missile
Thomas,
to come
quick,
over
is
the weekend.
this promise coming apart already?
Well, can I say this?
On the student fees being reduced over to nothing by the time
I
this
put it
government
this
is
way,
finished.
right? Why wasn't this announced a few months ago when the students were in college? Because there would have been uproar, there would have been on the streets. And can I tell you this now? This was a trick by this government, by Minister Lawless, to bring it in the summer. He thought he'd slip it through. He thought we'd all be asleep, but we weren't asleep. Pierce thought he wasn't asleep. The minute this came out, we're being contacted by parents and college students now who are up in arms, who are working over the summer, trying to get a few bob together so that when they go to college for the rest of the 9 months, they have money to keep them going. And what they're looking at now, they're working part-time jobs, full-time jobs. It's €1,000. If that money to get them through the next 12 months is gone under this government.
It's politically impossible, really, at this stage that this James Lawless's warnings won't come to pass.
Well, it's all down to...
The one thing that is going to happen is going to reduce the fees, I'd say.
Well, the one thing that he has to do is he has to fight for his budget to ensure that this won't happen. Because I told you before, the straw that'll break the camel's back. People can't pull €1,000 extra, and especially, that's if it was one person. But if they have a number of students going from a hard-working family, and if they have to come up with €2,000 or €3,000, it is putting families in an impossible situation. And again, it's not what I, for example, or the other independents, that's not what we signed up
but
to.
as Minister Lawless and the government out of touch. You're saying you're not, you're talking to the people in Kerry, but are we in a situation where the government is out of touch?